The collector car world had a shock this year, and some people seem upset about the results of the famous Pebble Beach Concours and the car that won Best of Show. Not everybody, but a few people didn't think that a preservation car should win. How do you feel about this topic? Be sure to let me know your opinion in the comments. I'm sure there will be a lively debate there. Okay, so let's back up a minute. The Pebble Beach Concours is one of the most prestigious car events in the world, and the cars that typically win the coveted Best in Show award are absolute perfection. Everything on the car has been restored, and they're often even nicer than when they originally left the factory. The judges are so meticulous, and if you use the wrong type of bolt, or the car's clock is set to the wrong time, or heaven forbid a light bulb is burnt out, they are going to deduct points. Those are the kinds of cars that win at Pebble. But this year, that all changed. Because for the first time in 74 years of this event, a preservation car won Best of Show. And some people didn't think that it should have won. Of course, there are two sides to every coin, and while some people were upset, others, including myself as an atypical driver, were actually thrilled. I'll tell you more about this beautiful 1934 Bugatti that won in a minute. But if you don't know what a preservation car is, that typically means a car that is unrestored. A car that has been, like the name says, preserved over the years, thus preservation. Something that has survived, usually through care and upkeep, but was never repainted, never got a new interior, was just sort of fixed when needed. It's not necessarily a barn find or something found in a junkyard, but usually preservation cars were enjoyed, driven, and lovingly used over the years. And Pebble Beach has had a special preservation class since 2001, but until now, a car from that class has never actually won the Best in Show. But in recent years, there's been more appreciation and even respect for preservation cars among the car enthusiast community. And I think that this moment, winning Best of Show, really validates that trend in a significant way. Personally, I love preservation cars, and I'd consider my unrestored 356 Roadster to be one. But what is the attraction to these well-used examples, and what makes them so different from a shiny, perfect example? In some ways, they're actually a lot more rare because you can't recreate that kind of history. There are worn finishes in the paint, the leather, the steering wheel, or the shift knob. They kind of tell the car's life story, much like people's wrinkles and scars tell the stories of their lives. I love these patinaed old cars because, like us, they aren't perfect. Sure, you can get Botox and plastic surgery, just like you can restore a car to make it look better. I don't know, it's kind of hard to articulate, but I think Dr. Fred Simeon, who was a well-known car collector, said it best.
Having seen my dad's penchant for restoration in the 100-point era of the collector car hobby, an era which unfortunately still predominates, I soon developed latent observations that restoration in many cases was a form of degradation, and that original finishes, trim, and preservation of cars in an as-found condition certainly supervened over glorious perfection, and replacement in the name of restoration. Because we are dealing with objects that are defined by their past, that past cannot be erased to satisfy competitive imperatives. The preservation criteria that govern other major historical collecting must apply to noteworthy automobiles if we are to earn respect as connoisseurs rather than hobbyists. These cars are real. They exude authenticity because they're nearly exactly the way they were built, the way they ran, and the way they'll remain forever. Like the Hippocratic Oath, one should do no harm to historically accurate artifacts. We should reward the owner for preservation, not perfection. Cosmetic perfection sometimes destroys originality in the process. While cosmetic perfection is very difficult to achieve, historic perfection is even more elusive and therefore more desirable.
Certainly at the time, I think Dr. Simeon's views were very atypical, and I love it. And in my opinion, the people who are probably the most upset by this car winning are the ones who realize that you can no longer just open your checkbook, pay for the best restoration specialists in the world to work on your car, and claim your prize. You can't just buy a win. Listen, I appreciate fully restored cars too, but their history and stories have been erased by fresh paint and new chrome. And that brings up another concern. The folks who own and operate the high-end restoration shops that do work on Pebble Beach caliber cars, what in the world are they gonna do? Nobody's gonna want to get their car restored anymore. I hardly think this is the case. Most of the best shops who work on these cars have customer waiting lists that are months or years long. They will continue to have plenty of customers, don't worry. But it's true that the owner of this 1934 Bugatti Type 59 didn't shell out big bucks for a restoration. It was mechanically really well sorted, and he did spend a lot on the car, as it was previously sold at auction for around $12 million. So it's not like any old relic is just going to win at Pebble. So what was the car and what's the story behind it? As mentioned, it's a Bugatti Type 59. Its scuffed leather seats, steering wheel, and paintwork bear the scars of many battles. And if this car could talk, it would have many stories to tell about its time being pushed to the limit all around the world. The car was owned and regularly driven across Europe, just like it was intended, by Fritz Burkhardt of the Pearl Collection in Switzerland. The Bugatti Type 59 itself is kind of a myth in the automotive world. Only 6 of the Grand Prix cars were ever built. This one was built in 1934 as a Type 59 Sports with a Type 57 chassis. A short time later, it received a special new chassis for the next series of Grand Prix races. René Dreyfus, a top driver of the pre-war period and a hero of the French Resistance, took to the wheel in the mid-30s. Some people were complaining that it wasn't preserved because it had been repainted early in its life. But to that, I say it was repainted as in like it was changed colors for racing. That's not a restoration. There was a lot of discussion on social media about this, so I asked a couple of our atypical drivers to tell us what people were saying.
Okay, so get this, right? A car that basically looks like, someone just pulled it out of a barn.
Yeah.
Wins Best of Show at Pebble Beach.
No way.
Yeah. Seriously.
And the whole car community is like, what just happened?
Like, is this real? I know.
Oh, yeah. Pebble Beach, that's the big leagues.
Huge deal, right? Winning Best of Show there.
It's like, I don't even know.
I was thinking, it's like the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
the Oscars,
And time machine.
yes, all rolled into one.
It is a time machine, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, you are literally looking at automotive history.
Exactly. And it's not just, like, oh, shiny paint job.
No.
Judges are looking at, like, the car's history, how well it's been preserved.
The details.
Oh, the details are insane.
You're insane.
And this year's winner, well, it kind of threw everybody for a loop.
Okay, I'm on the edge of my seat. What is it?
A 1934 Bugatti Type 59 takes home the gold. But hold on, it wasn't like, a flawless restored beauty queen.
So not a trailer queen?
No.
Yeah.
This Bugatti, it wore its history, like on its sleeve. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
All those little imperfections, scratches,
Pricing.
worn paint, little blemishes.
Like a beautifully aged photograph or something.
Yes.
Yes.
Frozen in time.
See, now that's fascinating to me because it really brings up this whole question of preservation versus restoration.
Right.
Should these automotive treasures, are they better when they're returned to, like, pristine, like, new condition?
Like back to the factory.
Yeah. Or is there something, maybe even more special about preserving those marks of time?
Oh, it's such a good question. And it goes way beyond cars, I think.
Oh, for sure.
It's how we view history.
Yeah.
What do we consider authentic?
Yeah.
What stories are these objects actually telling us? And let me tell you, social media is blowing up.
I bet.
Opinions are flying.
I'm sure.
Some folks, they're all about preservation. They're like, an old car is only original once.
Yeah.
They see those imperfections as, like, living history.
I love that living history.
Yeah, it is. It's like each scratch, each dent
It tells a story.
tells a story.
Yeah.
And you know what? Reading through these comments, I'm struck by, like, the passion,
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about, like, how the car looks. It's about history.
Yeah.
It's about, like, craftsmanship.
Absolutely.
It's almost like this sense of responsibility, I think, to these vehicles.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's funny you should say that because one of the comments actually, the person was talking about, they love driving and enjoying all sorts of pre-war cars in all kinds of conditions.
Yeah.
And you can really feel like their appreciation
Yeah.
for the unique character
Of each one.
of every single one. Yeah.
And that idea of like preserving the original, that comes up so much.
Yeah.
And there's this worry that like over restoration, it almost like erases the car's history.
It can.
Turns it into like a generic,
A copy.
yeah, like a cookie cutter version of itself.
It's like that quote that we were talking about. An old car is only original once.
Right.
And once those original parts, the finishes, all the little imperfections, they're gone. They're gone.
Yeah.
You can't get them back.
And with them goes like that little piece of the car's story.
It's true. It's like losing a piece of a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
You can try and make a new piece and fit it in there, but it's not going to be the same.
No, it's not the same puzzle. And a lot of folks were saying too, they were saying that like preserving original cars, it's actually super important for like accurate restoration.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So they're like blueprints.
Oh, that makes sense.
They're like, this is how they were really built. This is what they really look like.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like invaluable information.
Oh, so this is where the two approaches, preservation and restoration, they can actually work together.
They can.
Right. Preservation, like it informs, it guides restoration.
Yeah.
It makes sure that the work is done like with historical accuracy.
Yes.
And that you avoid, what some people call over-restoration.
Overdoing it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I love that. Using preservation to make restoration better.
Right.
It's like having the, you were talking about blueprints. It's like having the OG blueprints to guide you.
Yeah.
But even with the best intentions, I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
There's always that risk of, going a little too far.
Yeah, too far.
Right.
And I think that's why this whole conversation is so important. It's about finding the right balance.
Yeah.
Right? It's like that sweet spot where you're honoring the car's history,
Yes.
but you're also not compromising its structure or its safety.
And it's about recognizing that, like, there is no one-size-fits-all answer.
Right.
Each car, it's got its own story.
Its own set of challenges.
Challenges, yeah.
Mm.
Making the right decisions.
And I think respecting each individual vehicle, right?
Respect.
Sure.
I like that word.
Yeah.
And, that's what I think makes this whole debate so engaging.
It is engaging.
It's pushing the car community to, like, really think critically, to
yes.
move beyond just, like this or that.
Those easy answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to really appreciate, like, how complex this all is.
All the nuances.
Nuances. I love that. Okay, so this Bugatti win threw a wrench into the works, but, like, in a good way, I think.
It did. It did. It was like shaking up the snow globe.
Yes.
And watching all those little pieces settle into a new, like, kind of an intriguing pattern.
An intriguing pattern, yes.
Yeah.
Love that. And I think this speaks to, like, maybe a bigger trend.
Oh, yeah.
Not just in, like, the car world, but, like, all over. Like, I think there's this growing appreciation for, like, what's authentic.
I think so, yeah.
Like, for the stories behind objects, the beauty of, like, even imperfection.
The beauty of imperfection, yeah.
And I think we can all relate to that, even if we're not, like, gearheads.
Yeah.
It's like finding value in what makes something unique.
Even if it's not, quote unquote, perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah.
In the traditional sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's about recognizing that, the journey is just as important as the destination.
I love that.
Yeah, and those marks of the journey are worth preserving.
And, one of the comments said, they said, preservation is like paying tribute to the past, like showing respect for the creator,
Oh, wow.
the previous owners,
Yeah.
and the item's legacy.
I love that.
It really resonated with me, that idea of, like, it's more than just,
Yeah, it is.
like nuts and bolts.
And it highlights, I think, like almost like an ethical dimension
Oh, yes.
to this whole debate, right?
It's not just about looks. It's about stewardship.
Stewardship, yeah.
It's about being, like, responsible.
Caretakers.
Caretakers
Yes.
of these pieces of history.
The history, yeah.
And that responsibility, I think it extends beyond, like, just the car itself.
Oh, for sure.
Right. It's about, like, educating people, sharing the knowledge that we have,
Yeah, absolutely.
and making sure these vehicles, they're appreciated for,
Generations to come.
generations to come. Yeah, and that's where, like, museums,
Museums.
preservation societies,
Yeah.
they play, like, such an important role.
They do. They provide that platform
They do.
for, like, showcasing these vehicles, right? educating the public
Yes.
and just fostering a deeper understanding of like automotive history.
Oh, this has been so fascinating.
It has.
I feel like we've just like scratched the surface
Yeah.
of this whole preservation restoration debate.
Yeah, definitely.
What strikes me now is just like how much emotion is tied up in this.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not just nuts and bolts. It's people's like values,
Yeah.
their sense of history, like their connection to these cars. It's powerful.
It is. You've hit the nail on the head. Cars, especially like classic cars, they evoke strong emotions.
They do.
They represent freedom, adventure, craftsmanship.
Yeah.
And for a lot of people, it's like a link to the past.
A link to the past, yeah.
So it's no surprise that this whole debate, it's so passionately contested.
Oh, it is. One commenter even suggested like separating the categories altogether.
Really?
Yeah, so like recognizing that a restored car and a preserved car, they're like different.
Different animals.
Yes. Different animals, each with like their own merits, their own judging criteria.
That's an interesting idea. It really speaks to like the need for more nuance.
Yeah.
And how we like evaluate and appreciate these vehicles. You
Yeah.
know, maybe instead of having like just one best of show award,
Right.
you have separate categories for preservation and restoration.
I like that.
And each one recognizes like the unique challenges and achievements of each approach.
It would definitely level the playing field.
Mm-hmm.
It would also like encourage more thoughtful dialogue,
Yes.
I think, between the preservationists and the restorers.
Imagine the like knowledge sharing that could happen.
Oh my gosh.
Right, like restorers could learn from preservationists about like original materials and techniques,
Yeah.
and even those like subtle imperfections that like give a car character.
It's true.
And then preservationists could benefit from like the technical expertise of the restorers
Absolutely.
in and like addressing structural issues
Yeah.
and ensuring that these vehicles actually survive
Yes.
for a long time.
This is great. A win-win for everyone.
Win-win.
And ultimately, it's about like celebrating the diversity of this whole car world
Yeah.
and recognizing that there's more than one way to like honor these machines.
Oh, beautifully said. It's about expanding our definition of like what makes a car best, you know?
Yes.
And appreciating all the like unique stories that each one has to tell.
I love that.
How do we approach taking care of these old cars?
Yeah.
You know, how do we want to present them to the world? It says a lot about what we value, you know?
Yeah. And it's almost like asking, like, what's your car's story?
Yeah, yeah,
And how do you want to tell that story?
yeah.
You know, like, do you want to focus on like how original it is?
Yeah, that it's a survivor.
Yeah, it's a survivor. Or do you want to present it as like this pristine, perfect, like almost like an ideal
Like a time capsule.
time capsule? Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's no like, right or wrong here.
Yeah, no.
It's more about being thoughtful and making choices that like really connect with what you think.
Yeah.
And one of the comments, I really love this one. It said, preservation asks a completely different question
Oh, okay. Interesting.
about the car. It's not like, who were you when you were brand new? It's like,
Mhm.
who are you today?
Oh, wow. Yeah, that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't
You
it?
know, it really hit me. And, of course, the most important thing, enjoy it,
Oh, yeah.
right? Whether you're cruising around in like, a perfect Survivor.
Yeah, or a Concours quality restoration.
Yes. These cars were meant to be driven. They were meant to be enjoyed and shared, I think.
Absolutely. They're meant to be experienced. You know, this whole deep dive into the classic car world, it's been a blast.
It has.
Like, what really sticks out to you from everything we've talked about?
What really gets me is like how many different points of view there are,
Oh, yeah.
and how passionate people are
Actually, so passionate.
about these cars. And that passion, even when people disagree, it's pretty awesome, I think. It shows how much these cars mean to us.
It really does. It shows that these cars, they're not just machines, they're like cultural icons.
They are. They're a part of us, And that's pretty special.
It is. It really is.